Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Nina Kauser Show. Still waiting for the Reds to win away from home in the Premier League this season. Oh my God, what an absolute embarrassment of a performance and a result against newly promoted Nottingham Forest side. I don't even know what to say. A bit bemused, but here we are. We're going to do a podcast. We're going to try making sense of the absolute embarrassment that we watched. And joining me on this podcast, I've got two incredible guests as always. So let me introduce my panel. First up, couldn't make it on Wednesday, but tactical sub for today. I'm sure he'll be world class, unlike the Reds. Justin, I'm really sorry about that result and the fact that you pulled a short straw today, but welcome to the show.
Yeah, that was a terrible game of soccer that we lost. Oh, Lisa Marie and I are going to describe everything in American, by the way. Yep.
Well, talk about jumping the gun because, yeah, there's my next guest, Lisa Marie. Welcome back.
Yes, hello. Yeah, Justin and I have decided since the Americans outnumber, on the pod today, we're going to use the words soccer, field, game, just to make it a little bit more interesting.
Full on mutiny on the pod. Is that how it is? Are you turning on me? Right, I see you. I remember this.
Now, I said this last night to Justin, but you know what? Now, after what we had to watch, we might as well find a little bit of fun and joy because it certainly was not in the game that we saw on the field today.
You could call it stickball because what the Reds played was certainly not football. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm really, really rubbish with my references to American sport,
yeah.
But
it could be called soccer, like what I watch my kids play on a Saturday. So there you go.
There you go.
My child Harvey Elliott, but my other children, in the local fields here, for their rec leagues.
Yep, we're just here bringing the soccer mom vibes. Right, guys, let's get into this. And I do have a caller, but before I get to the caller, we obviously listeners we jump on before we did not pre-chat about the game. We're saving it, so I just want to quickly just get a raw reaction from both of you. Justin, I'll come to you first.
We created enough opportunities to win the game, finished none of them. They created enough opportunities to win the game, finished the one they needed to. We were unable to impose ourselves on a team that we should be able to impose ourselves on, and the inability to, put them to the sword or create chances with any form of consistency was our undoing today. And given what was available in the squad, Klopp made some decisions. Those decisions didn't work out. Most of our players didn't play particularly well, and the only one I thought who acquitted himself in any reasonable way was Curtis Jones.
Nicely summarized. And what about you, Lisa? I mean, how do you feel after that?
I had a very long week at work, and I really did not. I deserved better than having to get up at the crack of dawn before the sun was up and watch that. That's just all I have to say. Yeah, it was just appalling on a number of levels. I mean, Justin summed it up much, much nicer than I can at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, we had chances and we just could not put them away. And they should not have had the chances that they had. I mean, on paper, we are clearly the better team. And we did not show it today at all.
No, we certainly didn't. And I'll just quickly give my quick rough thoughts on how I feel. I'm just absolutely disgusted, man. I don't know what I watch anymore. It's just so frustrating. You know, it's not even the fact that we get done by great football and stuff. Like, losing games is part of everything. It's the manner in which you're losing. And when you hand that goal, and it was a gift of a goal in terms of how the build up to it, it just frustrates the crap out of me. It really, really does. And, you know, I'm not going to kick off about the youngsters playing because there are a lot of injuries. But, you know, there's just, we will be talking about the players, and I have a lot to say about some of our senior players in this game. And we'll get into that. But I'm just going to just slow down a second because we do have a caller. It's the familiar voice on the Nina Kauser Show. Kieran, he's just going to probably summarise how he feels as well and his thoughts on the game. But Kieran, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Nina.
No, pleasure. Thank you for joining us, even on such a horrendous, on the back of a horrendous defeat.
Well, this is a new low for the season. It was an absolutely abysmal display. We didn't even look like threatening at all in that game. I know we had one of them chances, but I know we had the odd chance with Virgil and that, but other than that, though, given the performance we put on today, we deserve nothing, and we deservedly lost the game. And like you said before, it's just not good enough. It's just simply not good enough, and we have I don't know where we go from here, to be honest.
And that is a question that Jurgen Klopp and his coaching staff are going to have to find the answer to. But Kieran, is that everything?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about much more of the game. I mean, it was just a dreadful watch all day, to be honest. And yeah, I have not much more to say.
Cool. And you know what? I think we'll be covering a majority of what you've said there as well. So you know what? Let's just thank you so much, Kieran.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
No. It's a pleasure having you on the show, and we really rate the fact that you call in even after such a horrendous result. Right, let's get into this. I don't know why I sounded a bit upbeat, and God knows why. But anyway, Justin, I'm going to come to you. Team lineup. Jurgen Klopp makes 5 changes from the team against West Ham. I mean, what did you make of the changes? I mean, I did the preview to this, and I expected some of the youngsters to be thrown in there. I'll run through the team lineup really quickly again, just to refresh people's minds. Alisson in nets, Virgil van Dijk, Gomez, Robertson and Milner, Fabinho and Jones, and I put it he does it as a 4-4-2, but I do it as a 4-2-4. But okay, we'll do it as a 4. And Jones, Fabinho, Elliott, Carvalho, and Roberto Firmino or Mo Salah up top. What did you make of the team?
No pace. There's no pace and no width in that team. That's what I feared might happen. And if you look at actually how that kind of shook out, that's a team that likes to play through a lot of central positions, and we tried playing basically up the gut of a team that expected us to play up their gut, and we couldn't go around them out wide, which is probably where we could have gotten some joy. But we, if we don't have Darwin, we don't have Diaz, we don't have Jota, that's basically putting you with not, you're playing 220, a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old who, as talented as they are, they're not ready for every week starting football in the Premier League. And the fact that we're thrust into a position where that's going to be the case for us, at least until Darwin comes back, is probably a bad thing. But today is a day where obviously it was very obvious that we were missing a wiry Colombian man who can dribble through a lot of things. He would have been a absolutely huge help for us. And yeah, I mean, the squad is what the squad is. You're dealing with 8 injuries. It's basically playing square pegs in round holes. Basically, that's what we were stuck with.
Yeah, and I think largely that was down to injuries, wasn't it, Lisa? Because again, like every game, a striker has been kind of dropping like fly. Like, our strikers have been dropping like flies. And I fully expected the youngsters to play. Not that I wanted them to. It's not that I was like, yeah. But given the nature of where we are and the lack of squad depth, it was the writing was on the wall that this is going to be a very, a very different Liverpool side that we're going to face. And I think the West Ham subs that he made against West Ham, Jurgen Klopp, that is, I felt like that was kind of him indicating what he's going to do against Forest. I mean, I'd like to get your thoughts on the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I expected changes. I don't like it when, and I know others have said this as well. I don't like seeing yet Elliott and Carvalho on the pitch at the same time. I mean, of course, they're both players with a lot of talent and a lot of potential, but there's just something right now about the two of them on the field at the same time that just doesn't seem to work. So, the changes were as expected. I was a little bit surprised to see Milner in for Alexander-Arnold, but not hugely surprised. And it worked out okay. So that was it. But yeah, it's just there wasn't a whole lot for them to pick. We're back to where it was kind of at the first couple games of the season, where it's like, well, there's not a whole lot to choose from. I was happy to see Curtis Jones in the lineup. I think, he definitely needs playing time to get back up to form. And overall, I think he did rather well. I'm trying to highlight some positivity here. Not that there's much to find. So, yeah, I mean, the team was pretty much what I expected to be, knowing that we've got the Ajax game, coming up within days, and then whoever after that, et cetera, et cetera. So changes were necessary, and I guess they were mostly the ones I expected to see.
Into it. And Justin, I'm going to come to you because I felt like the game kind of started off at a very, very slow tempo, something that you alluded to, that there's going to be no pace there, there was a lack of width, but it just felt like even the passing was really sloppy, the control was really off. I saw a few, I think Jones probably grew into the game a little bit. I wouldn't say, I felt like I felt like I was probably slightly, this game was in two halves. I'm going to talk about the first half because that's the notes that I've got up right now, but for me, it felt like the youngsters, certainly Jones, I was probably more impressed with this off-ball movement, with what he was doing in terms of the cover that he's trying to produce on the left-hand side. But as a whole, I felt like the Reds started off really slow. I felt like they, weren't really, they didn't come out with that front foot, with that aggression that, and I guess in hindsight is a wonderful thing. I guess that was to be expected given the fact that there were so many changes and there was maybe a lack of familiarity. But for me, the fact that we couldn't string passes together and we just did not look cutthroat, for me, that's just indication of the writing on the wall of how this result and performance is going to go.
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything to argue with it, right? As much as I like parts of Curtis Jones' performance today, I think that having a press-resistant midfielder who takes care of the ball and is hard to dispossess is a useful thing to have away from home. He's not going to create chances for you. That's not his game. He doesn't really know when to release the ball. He's not really much, also particularly of a ball progressor, but at least he kept, it's fawning praise when the best thing you're doing is praising a guy for keeping you out of trouble away to Nottingham, which is what he did with his play, which is less than you can say for some others, like Joe Gomez in particular. But we didn't have any creativity. If you don't have Thiago and you don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't know who on this particular side can pick a pass. James Milner probably can't, not anymore, right? He's probably your next most creative passer in that team, and I think that's pretty damning as far as what you've set up with to create chances. It's very obvious though how we were going to hurt them, which was going to be we were just going to score a set piece, and we had multiple opportunities to do so, but we didn't bury them, and we kept getting ourselves set pieces. That was going to be our way through, right? It was just going to have to try to be, and it wasn't a grind out 3 points and just assert, that man for man you're better than them. And when you don't, that's what you are reduced to when you don't play creativity any place in the side and any place to actually play the ball into Bobby and or Mo where they can do something creative, because they were just isolated and there was no service for them.
Yeah, they really were. But the front men were really, really isolated. And Lisa, I'm going to come to you. I want to get your thoughts on the start, because for me, it just felt a bit off. There was maybe a moment where I thought, maybe things do click. And it is the two youngsters that you mentioned in the lineup that you were quite surprised to see. Elliot, I felt like, obviously we'll talk about players in general, but I felt like Elliot was probably one of our better youngsters that played today, in my opinion, in terms of his on the ball. Certainly in the first half, I felt like, he looked a bit leggy and tired in the first half, but in terms in a creative sense, I felt like if anything was going to come, it was going to be from Elliot. And I remember around about I think it was about just past 8 minutes. I think it was about 8:30. Elliot puts in the ball to a lovely ball in to Carvalho, finds him, just crosses it in. Carvalho, he had a lovely touch, but his first touch was lovely, but then it basically came to nothing. But I felt like maybe there was a click that was going to happen in those moments, and I felt like Elliot was probably one of the better ones. And from the creative sense, I mean, it's mad to think that everything was actually happening on the right-hand side. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I agree. We started slow. In fact, I have that as my very first note, is a slow start. And I don't know, it was probably 2-3 minutes in. I'm like, are we ball out of our half? Because there was a lot of the passing back and forth, and I'm like, okay, I know they've got kind of a very defensive block on us, and it's going to be difficult for us today to break through that. But, can we at least try? But yeah, you're right. And I had that exact same note at just after 8 minutes about, I had nice ball from Elliot to Carvalho, and exact same thought as you, Nina. I thought, okay, just taking a minute to kind of get into the game. This is a different group playing together. So, maybe that's smart to just take, that couple of minutes to find the rhythm and, and connect with we, hit the ground running. So I was a little concerned initially, but then I thought, okay, maybe it's clicking into place. And, so there were some good things there, in the opening few minutes, but we just couldn't seem to, as both you and Justin alluded, we didn't have the creativity on the field. And, that was quickly becoming painfully obvious. Although I agree, I think Elliot, did a lot of nice work down that right side, either, getting it forward and even across the field in various times and places. So, he was attempting to try to make something happen. But we just couldn't pass the ball today. Today was another one of those days where, we just couldn't seem to get the passes into the right players, into the right spots to be able to move it forward. It felt like we were, chasing the.
Yeah, I get that. It was very, very frustrating. And Justin, I'm going to come back to you because, one thing that you kind of touched on, and both of you kind of said that, the passing wasn't awfully great. The front men looked very much isolated. One thing that I kind of noticed was, obviously Forest obviously they won today, but they came into this game on the back of an impressive away, draw against Brighton, actually. They fought for it, they defended. So, they came into this game with very much a lot of confidence. And one thing I kind of noticed was, and I sensed this as well, that they were quite happy for us to have the ball, which we did have a lot of the ball, but they were just quite happy for us to have it, and they were just going to set up in a defensive shape and become very frustrating to kind of play against. 2 banks of 4. I expect nothing less from a newly promoted side. What was really frustrating for me, and you both touched on it, and it was probably largely down to the team selection, was the fact that there was nobody to break the lines, nobody to spread out play, nobody to run at their fullbacks, those kind of things. And I felt like that was what was really, really lacking. And it was kind of making it, it was kind of making more hard work of what it needed to be, in this game. And I'm not just saying this because we love Thiago, but we just needed somebody to break them lines, and there was nobody to do that. And of course, Trent wasn't there as well.
Yeah, I mean, Trent's not there, Thiago's not there. Even at that point, Henderson's not there, right? He's at least someone who can at least move the ball quickly when when you're playing against a team that's sitting in against you, right? Those are 3 guys who can get a lot of touches and keep the ball moving. We didn't have anybody who did that. Now, the other thing is, if you look at the positions that Carvalho and Elliott took up, Harvey did keep kept width when trying to receive the ball. But Carvalho did the thing where he dropped deeper to come kind of try to find the ball. Ended up crowding space instead of trying to keep high and wide. And that probably didn't work, right? Because the only way we were going to actually get beyond them, it seemed, would be basically getting Robertson on the overlap. And we were physically incapable of getting to that tactic because we couldn't find Carvalho in the spaces where he could turn, run, and have the option to either cut in or hit Robertson overlapping. Like, we couldn't find him with the ball, and then we couldn't bring Robertson into the game. that's basically like one of the big tactical flaws that prevented our ability to create any sort of cutbacks or balls in the final third and open play. We couldn't advance to the positions that worked. Now, we did have a few nice moments, like Elliott finding Carvalho, where Carvalho tried to nutmeg Henderson. That was nice.
Yep.
But
Yep.
just too few and far between from open play. Like, we just could not create anything.
No, we absolutely couldn't. And Nigel in here in the chat saying Forest had 0 shots on goal against Brighton. Yep, that is very true. Yet they had 7 shots on goal against us, and largely down to them hitting us on the counter as well, and us making tough work for ourselves and just not having the right cover. I'm going to come back to you, Lisa. I mean, what did you make of them? That is exactly how I expect a newly promoted side to set up against us. We call it parking the bus, whatever you want to call it. But that was exactly how I expect him to set up. And, you know, something that I kind of noticed as well, the striker that they had on who actually scored the goal, he was threatening against West Ham, which was the last game that they won. So we already knew that they were going to have some physical being who's just going to be an absolute nightmare. But, you know, I want to get your thoughts on the 2 banks of 4 and how frustrating that was. And also the lack of inactivity on the left-hand side, because I kind of noticed that Robertson, you know, he had this there was like a lack of cohesion between him and Carvalho, and that's probably largely down to the fact that they've not played together. But, you know, you see Robertson looking very comfortable with Diaz. He was very comfortable when Mane was there. But this time around, the left-hand side, there wasn't much going on.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, inside, well, and, you know, all right, sorry, let me try again and form a coherent thought. Agreed. Yes, there was not a lot going on the left-hand side. And I think, you know, some of it can be put down to the fact that, you know, I mean, Robertson's only just come back into the team, you know, this week as well, you know, in the last week. So you have him, Jones, and Carvalho, who, you know, that's not really where he's been playing a lot either. So you have 3 players kind of on that left side that haven't, you know, played together as a unit. So there's going to be some expected, you know, miscommunication, if you will. Because we were starting to see before Diaz's injury some good, you know, give and go with him and whoever he was playing with on that left side. You know, and of course Robertson and Mane had a wonderful understanding that they had built over the years. So I mean, I think some of that is understandable, that, you know, people are so used to being able to see that play on the left side, and you do need to kind of take a step back. And this isn't an excuse, it's just kind of an understanding that you need to take that step back and understand that these aren't the same players who have been playing together on the left side. And, you know, it takes time sort of for those relationships and understandings to develop and, you know, but you're right. We just couldn't seem to get the ball, you know, be it Robertson or whomever, to Carvalho to be able to kind of come in and, you know, and try to do something with it. So, yeah, but that deep defense block from Forest was exactly what you expected them to do. I mean, I'm no tactician, but, you know, it didn't surprise me at all that they set up very defensively, and it worked for them.
It really did. And, you know, we speak about games, Justin, and, you know, the midfield, and, you know, their player Kouyaté, for me, pretty much ran the show for them, and we made it very, very, very easy, in the sense that I don't think, you know, we will sit here and people on social media will stick it to our youngsters who came in this game. But, like, I want to kind of, like, just say, like, some senior players need to hang their heads in shame, because I was absolutely, like, I don't know what is going on with Fabinho. You know, I don't think he's been overly great. I don't think he was good when he came on as a sub. I liked him against Man City, I can't lie. I think he's probably up for the occasion. But today he was absolutely dreadful and woeful. And, the guy that was running things was Kouyaté. I mean, surprised that he actually stayed on the pitch. I'm not going to lie. He had a few nasty ones on Elliott, and he could have easily been off. But I want to get your thoughts on just, the midfield battle.
Oh, we lost it. That's the answer in the midfield battle. We did not participate in it particularly well. Like, it's like the same thing. I thought Curtis Jones had the type of performance that, you know, he had like the Ginny-esque performance of keeping the ball and not creating trouble for us. But Fab really wasn't putting out fires. He looks really easy to outmuscle right now, which is not something that we're used to seeing. And he just seems to step
past him. I've seen players just go past him, and I'm
go
like,
past
what?
him. You can just shove him out of the way like he's not there at the moment. Like,
Yeah,
he's losing every physical battle, and it just feels like all the bite and snarl has come out of his game. At some point, we have to reckon with the fact that everything that's happening with Fabinho's inability to play at the moment, it's not just there's one player destabilizing the midfield. It's that probably all of our midfielders, save Thiago, are limited beyond their usefulness at the moment.
Yeah, it's massively concerning. It's massively concerning. You spoke about Fabinho then. A few people have commented saying he was a ghost today. And, Fabinho looks like a shadow himself on Halloween settings. So there are some comments there about Fabinho and his performance. And for me, I just kind of remembered, like, obviously, he was, like we've said, he was being bypassed, Lisa. But I remember an instance in the second half where we were already 1-0 down and we were chasing the game. I think there's about 5 minutes left. And player just half turns him and he just puts his hands up and lets him go, and they just go on a counter. And if Alisson doesn't make a monster save, it's game over, like properly game over at that moment. But you don't expect that. And this is like the concern. I don't know what is going on with the players. You can look at the youngsters and say, oh, he had a bad game and he had a terrible game. And social media would be full of those kind of narratives. But what were the senior players doing?
Exactly. First of all, I would just like to take a moment to say, God bless Alisson Becker, and thank God we have him, because can you imagine if we didn't? Fabinho, I don't know what's going on with him. Bless his heart, as we say down here in the South. It's very strange, and I don't have an explanation or even one to offer as a possible reason. It's definitely a problem for us. I mean, it's not that long ago that he was being referred to as, the lighthouse and the colossus, and you could always depend on him to stick one of those long, lanky legs in to stop somebody from getting forward with the ball and everything else. And I don't know. I mean, so that's obviously one of, our senior player issues at the moment, is that it's just not happening for him. And I don't know. I mean, I know there's been some that have said, maybe he's carrying some sort of knock and he's just needing to play through it because of, the lack of personnel or what, but it's very worrying.
Allow me to be...
No way we're getting... I'm sorry, Justin.
I'm just saying, allow me to be allegorical for one moment. The lighthouse is trapped in the fog, and the ship has hit the rocks.
Well said. Very, very nice. It is. But, I mean, why? That's the thing that's just so weird is why. But, yeah, anyway, I mean, we could sit here and woulda, coulda, shoulda for a while on that, and it's not going to get us anywhere. So yes, absolutely. Fabinho's current form is a huge, huge issue for us. I mean, we've been saying that for a couple of weeks, but it's becoming even more so. Mo didn't seem himself today, and
Nope.
I don't know why. Because obviously he had a couple of really nice games here, in the last few runs. So yeah, but he didn't seem quite himself either. And I wasn't awake enough beginning to try to, figure out what might have led to that as the game went forward. So yeah, there does seem, I mean, I think, again, considering youngsters, are being asked to do an awful lot. And I think, no, they're not fantastic 9 performances, but they're holding their own considering. See, I'm trying to be a little more positive, folks. I mean, keep in mind, Jones has barely played. And, no, he wasn't fantastic, but he was, I think he can hold his head up in the performance that he put out today, which, compared to some others is not necessarily the case. And, I don't even remember what your your question was at this point in time. I've rambled on for so long.
Okay, everyone just just speak your mind. I mean, I don't even have any coherent thoughts on this podcast.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to also talk about senior players who we expect more out of.
There you go. That was it.
At some point, with the opportunities he has today, Virgil van Dijk has to score a goal.
Yes, and he certainly had the opportunities, but it was not going in the net, was it?
I mean, in the first half, I think that kind of summarised it quite well, didn't it, when he had that header? And obviously he wasn't even looking at goal. I think he was trying to square it to Bobby. And, you know, I think Bobby was off it today as well. We're talking about most, but I think Bobby was off it. And now I'm really, really seething at his chance. It's, you know, his header that he missed on like 9 minutes, where he pretty much could have scored a goal. And it's just that clinical cut edge which sets the tone for the game, sets tone for the performance you put in and what it does to your opposition. You know, like they would have cowered. And I just felt like those misses and those half-assed opportunities just allowed Nottingham Forest to grow into this game and grow with some confidence. But yeah, there was loads of chances, and you're absolutely spot on, because Justin, you know, Virgil van Dijk had some really, really glorious opportunities, and you know, some of the chances obviously became more and more better in the second half, and Trent's deliveries improved. But yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. You know, you expect the senior players to kind of do a little bit better. I mean, what did you make of, like, I don't know, James Milner? Because I guess what I want to say was I wasn't too surprised that he played him, given the fact that, you know, he's got to manage everyone's minutes and injuries. And the setup was exactly how it was for Man City. So he probably thought, well, Elliot will do some of his running in a defensive sense, and I've got Joe Gomez next to him. So it might be a much of a muchness. But like, maybe he was probably chipping in more.
James Milner was fine today. Like, he was fine. He's James Milner gave you what James Milner can give you at his very best at this age, which is a performance that will not kill you against a bad team. Like, he didn't do anything that made us any better, but he didn't make us any worse, right?
He didn't do anything to hurt us.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the kind of game we're talking about here. We were bad, so the only things that you can really talk about are who were the players who made us more bad and who were the players that made us less bad. James Milner didn't do anything that made us more bad today, but he didn't really do any, like, there's nothing he can do to raise our level beyond a certain point because he's a 37-year-old James Milner. Like, that's the game he had. He didn't make us any worse.
No, he really didn't. I mean, what did you make? What did you make of his performance, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean,
we're so flat today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, he again, and also he's playing like what, his third game this week, you know, within the last week. So that's asking a lot for him at this point in his career. But you know, I agree with Justin. He didn't make us any worse. No, he didn't elevate anything, but he held the line, if you will, and you know, put in
a massive block as well, by the way.
Yeah,
on
another one of those. I mean,
on Gibbs White, yeah, 57 minutes.
He didn't start West Ham. He came in, but again, the third game he's played, you know, this week, you know, and he played, you know, he put in that. We can't expect him to put in a performance like he did for Man City every game. You know, hey, he stepped up and put in that Man City performance for us. And, you know, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, we don't really need to ask much more of him for the rest of the season other than performances like he put in today. It was it was fine. And I don't mean that in a dismissive kind of way. It was what was needed. It's just unfortunate that not everybody else gave us what was needed today.
Oh, absolutely. I could not agree more. And I think I've got a comment here, which I will read, and I think it is from Nigel. I said 5 minutes into the game that we were not up for it. We're not up for it. The team looked like they were in first gear and never got out of first gear. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, Nigel.
Yeah, it's also tough to get out of first gear when you have 8 changes. Everybody's hurt. Your players that you're playing are either overplayed or out of position, right? There's a chain reaction to having a large injury crisis. There's a chain reaction to having a squad that's probably not fit for purpose. Like the those of us who before the season thought that the squad was capable of challenging for things were very clearly wrong. I was one of them. Like the squad's insufficient, and when you have injuries to an insufficient squad and you have tactics that you're really unclear on, you're going to have games like this. It's just going to happen because, quite frankly, we're a mid-table team. We're pretty mediocre. We can raise our level like we did against City, but we're also capable of this. The problem is the consistency of performance is what suffers when you're just not that good.
And do you want to know something as well? I want to get your thoughts on this. We're speaking about Salah and being off it, and I don't think, he was very much involved in anything, but he did give me a scare because I felt like we might have lost another striker today. When it looked like he pulled, I'll be honest here, when it looked like he pulled something muscular, and I was just like, we cannot lose another striker, and that was quite a scary moment. It looked like he was okay, but we'll see what Klopp says post. Obviously, we've not had any post-match interviews that we can take anything from because we've jumped straight onto here. But, I mean, that was a scary moment for me in the first half. But, yeah, both of them two, there wasn't any service or supply for them. That box was too occupied. There was just nothing happening. We had a few chances. We like Justin said, we kind of failed to take them. But first half, I thought, you know what, it can't. I'm sure Klopp will give him a telling off. Is there any highlights that you want to kind of mention from the first half before we move on to the second? Because I think that's where, we'll be talking.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Anything from the first half, guys?
I'm just looking over my notes, things like Virgil should have scored.
Yeah. Virgil should have scored. We got Mo exactly one shot on target. They created one half chance. And otherwise it was... The other thing about this game was it was a tedious watch. It was very boring.
Yes, 20 minutes had gone, and I was like, it feels like I've been sat here for an hour.
Yeah.
That's
45 minutes could seem like a long time, and it could seem like a short time. That first 45 minutes felt like an eternity.
Agreed.
It did. How many seasons changed for you, Lisa, watching that first half?
I just kept glancing to see if the sun was fully up yet, and it was by the end of the first half, so there you go. But maybe my time would have been better spent watching the sunrise. Yeah, it was a very tedious watch, and just for a number of reasons. We just couldn't seem to click it into the Geated, and I was really hoping that halftime would make the difference and we could come out better in the second half.
Certainly, and we came out in the second half, and I felt like James Milner was trying to put in a shift on the right hand side, and I think there was a free kick around about 51 minutes. Milner takes it. Salah's in space to take the shot, but he kind of leaves the ball and lets it go back for Carvalho to take a shot, who fires wide. But it was those kind of moments where Salah was in those moments kind of finding space, Justin. But it's those kind of moments that you think, people are not thinking, their heads aren't on, the concentration isn't there, and that's what was kind of frustrating for me.
Yeah, I mean, that was just frustrating for me too. This team has all the hallmarks of a bad side, which is that they managed to make every single situation worse for themselves.
Yes.
Like Joe Gomez.
We'll get to that. We're not going to go there yet. But I just wanted to start on how Liverpool kind of did start on the front foot, right? And that was the frustrating thing.
I mean, we had 72% of the ball, but it's like sterile possession at this point.
It was side with
Right.
passing in the midfield. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's sterile possession. Just let our center backs pass and just hope that they make a mistake. Seems to be a tactic that you can do and execute against us. Like we're tactically naive. We have our midfielders get caught on the wrong side of the ball all the time, and that didn't really happen too much in the first half because they didn't really hit us on the break much. It's just they just took our best punch and knew that we just couldn't actually move the ball between the lines. Like we had some chances in the first half that we didn't take, and they, that managed. The longer it held to 0-0, the happier they were going to be.
Absolutely, they were certainly going to be happy. And you know what, Justin, because you want to go there, let's go there. Because within moments, I think it's 3 minutes after, it's around about 54 minutes, I've clocked it here. I have no idea what Joe Gomez is doing here at the moment. He knows how close one he is, near him, and he just, goes past him, and then he has to do a tactical foul, which I completely get. And then it results, pretty brainless by Joe Gomez, one of the senior players, considering he had a very, really decent game against Man City. And, I thought for most parts it was really good against West Ham, bar, of course, conceding the penalty. But don't put yourselves in that kind of pressure because that guy is physically strong and he skinned him. And then obviously you bring it back for the foul and that's where the goal comes from.
Yeah, you don't want to give a team that's not creating much opportunities and belief. And that's what that foul did. Once Forrest got that free kick and actually scored it, they were all over us. They knew we were there for the taking. That gave them belief. Now, as far as Gomez goes, beyond that, I thought he was pretty poor in the first half as well because he's passing the ball to their team a lot. He's trying to break lines from deep and just passing the ball right to them. You don't need to do that. If the pass is not on and you're a center back, you don't have to make it. Just keep shuffling it. See if you can move their players. Like he was forcing some awful passes into bad situations.
And
he seemed hurried.
Go on.
Yeah. He seemed hurried with the ball at all times. Like you can't shoot the ball like a stick of dynamite or a live grenade. You have to know what you're going to do with it. And he didn't. He was basically just, oh, I have this, move it on to some other, it's like he's passing to areas rather than men. And that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. And you know what, Lisa, Justin just said something that we were trying to force things and we were trying to do something, which is the stark opposite of what we did against Man City. In the first half, we controlled it. There wasn't a pass on. We were just keeping the ball, holding it, containing the threat that Man City are. And when there was a pass on, then we would play it, which instantly is a stark opposite of a winning result and a losing result and performance. And I want to get your thoughts on the whole Joe Gomez conundrum and the goal as well. I mean, the way it was scored, it kind of ricocheted off the post, and then where was the defending? The fact that he managed to have a second bite at the cherry, if you will. I mean, the simple stuff had just gone out the window. Everything that we kind of worked hard for, the simple stuff that was so easy for us last season and prior to that.
Yeah, and just to kind of go back over a couple notes I had at the beginning of the second half, we were playing the way Forrest wanted us to play. We were playing into their game plan, and, we needed to change that. And it looked at first like maybe we were going to. We did start off brighter in the second half, and so I thought, okay, this is good. This is looking better. But it didn't last long. And yeah, Joe, I mean, again, bless his heart. I think he made that, initial tackle that got the yellow card he was trying to stop whoever the Forest player was from getting past and getting through. And, okay, my initial thought was like, all right, you're kind of taking one for the team there. Fine. But after that, it was just a trap. It was, as Justin was saying, it was like he was just trying to get rid of the ball. Like he was afraid of what would happen if he held on to it for that additional, 1 or 2 seconds to make a better pass. And it's, on one hand, and again, I'm going to try to be nice here for a second. Again, how much football has he played? How much soccer has he played in the last couple of years? And, some of that game awareness is something that he kind of has to come back to. I mean, he did. He had a great game for Man City, and I kind of thought, okay, kind of getting back into his groove here, but it hasn't looked very good since then. I mean, West Ham wasn't all bad. He gave away the penalty, but, it was kind of a 50-50 performance. But yeah, today it was just, he wasn't making good passes. He wasn't making good decisions. And it seemed like it just built as the game went on. Like, and I don't know if, you just have to think that it was something almost mentally that was going on with him there, that, he just didn't look calm and composed. He looked more nervous and panicked.
Yeah, somebody's just put something in the chat here. The Mauritian one, James Pearce tweet: Liverpool away from home in the Premier League this season have played 5, won 0, drawn 2, and lost 3. Gags there. Another reason why I didn't expect much this season. Yeah, it's all going horribly wrong. I've got a comment here from Righty. If any of one of you two want to respond. Love Klopp, but he has overworked the players and now they are breaking. It's like a wee rebellion, like I'm not going to kill myself for Klopp anymore, and even more so as the World Cup is coming. Having no club doctor can't also help. I mean, what do you make of that? Because I spoke to John Harding when Jurgen Klopp did come to Liverpool. And he goes, and he said it on the pod, you can go back and listen to it when the Klopp has announced he is going to break your players because he demands so much from them. So I guess, the problem here is, the keeping it fresh. But have you two got a response to that?
Yeah, these players look broken.
We agree, they're broken.
Response. They look broken. I mean, we spoke about Fabinho a few minutes ago. The man's running around like he's carrying the piano.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say as far as with the World Cup coming, there's been some comment and, if you will, criticism, especially about Virgil on that he seems to be sort of holding back just a little bit because he doesn't, he missed the Euros because of his injury, and, he doesn't want to chance missing the World Cup. I mean, understandable a little bit, but not helping us at the moment, if you will. Yeah, they do. They seem, I don't want to get, too try to get into the psychology of it all, because I'm qualified for that. Minefield podcast, people. But they do seem, the fatigue seems as much mental as it does physical at this point, I think.
Yes. And I think, just by, some of the movement from the forwards as well, and, the Virgil van Dijk, header where, obviously wasn't even looking at goal. He was trying to play Firmino, and Firmino didn't anticipate it. And then, Salah with the Milner free kick and, finding space, but leaving it for somebody behind him. When does Mo Salah ever do that? Just think about that for a minute. Like Salah will eat that up all day, every day, and try getting himself into a position to get that ball. But yeah, I do agree with you. And of course, what Joe Gomez did as well, thinking he had all the time in the world. My only concern about this whole World Cup is I think we can all agree that it has come at the worst possible time mid-season. It's so disruptive. Second thing about players not giving their all is it's a bit problematic because, like it could potentially affect your inclusion. I don't think it'll affect people like Virgil van Dijk because he will get picked. But, like maybe some other players, I think I heard on AI Scouted, Dave and Carl talk about Fabinho and how stinking he is. And the fact that they're saying that he's not even like dead set guaranteed to get a position. So why the fuck is he farting around? You should be playing out your skin.
I don't think it's a lack of effort. Like, that's the thing. I don't think these guys have the gas in the tank to put in to do what they need to. I don't think this is a question of effort. I don't think these guys want to play badly or want to go into or protecting themselves to have good form into the World Cup. I think they played a lot of football with not much rest. Like, I don't think it's anything like Klopp's lost the dressing room, right?
Yeah.
I think that we're just out of gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so as well, because that comment about I'm not going to run myself for your Klopp anymore is basically saying like you just said, he's lost the dressing room and the players are playing for him to get sacked, which I don't think they want.
No.
I don't think any of them want that. Like, regardless of what's happening, we haven't really, outside, a few early season, like, dust-ups between, Milner and Van Dijk and Henderson and Van Dijk. We haven't really seen this team actually fracture, like, where it seems like they actively have, like, deep inside the squad issues, right? Now, like, with each other. They at least seem to be a reasonably together group, and they seem to want to try for the manager. The issue is that they're just probably out of gas, and the manager probably, and the way in which they manage the squad isn't good, right? So when all the players who, like, because we have refreshed some critical players and have some youth in certain spots. Those players all happen to be injured right now, but Darwin Nunez, Ibu Konate, Diogo Jota, Trent Alexander-Arnold, these guys are all still young. They can all perform for a while. They still have years of output that they can give us going towards their peaks. But it's just we have too many guys who are also on the other side of 30 that are the ones who are actually healthy, who are underperforming their potential. Like, Fabinho right now should be at peak age. Is the question, did he just peak too early and this is his level? Or is it just that he needs a serious rest and reset because he's just played too much football over the last few years and he just simply, needs to recharge the tank? I think it's probably the latter, but it needs to be found out because the way he's playing right now is not a guy who's going to help you win games.
Yeah, I agree with you. Fabinho, to me, looks like he's aged about 20 years from last season. In his legs, he just looks so slow and passive. I don't like that at all. Straight after that goal, because we did go on a bit of a tangent and we responded to comments. Millie puts in that massive block, but Klopp makes a sub pretty much straight away after. It was like a response, 61 minutes, brings on Trent and Hendo, on for Carvalho and Milner. I mean, what did you make of that, Lisa? Because I felt like, it made sense. It felt like there needed to be another controller alongside Fabinho there. I felt like, moving Jones a bit more further out on the left might be helpful, and bringing Trent in just to kind of deal with bringing some creativity and some width, and maybe he could unlock something in the attack and, maybe force a bit of movement from our forward men because they look very static because nothing was coming their way as well.
Yeah, I was okay that Klopp made. Definitely Trent on for Milner. I mean, I really think maybe Trent, it does feel as though we're managing his minutes a little bit right now coming off of that ankle injury, which, and again, so far it's worked out fine. So yeah, Trent, I was hoping was going to bring that bit of creativity that we were sorely lacking and would help there. Henderson on for Carvalho. I agree with what you said there. I mean, again, considering the options that Klopp had off the bench, I think these probably were the best substitutions that could be made at this time. And hopefully, Henderson a bit more control, Jones maybe a little bit, forward and out on the left. So I mean, I think, again, considering what was available, that they were, I was okay with the changes. I think they were the right ones at this point. Fortunately, they didn't seem to help all that much, but, what are you going to do?
I actually wish they had come earlier. That's it. I think those are the changes I would have made, too, because that's really all you have. I just wish they would have come earlier.
Yeah. Because I felt like, of course, Hendo would have helped shore up that midfield, because I think we can all agree we were losing that battle. But Justin, you said you wish they came in earlier, and around about 62 minutes, Trent there with a teasing corner, and Firmino failed to connect. So instantly you could see what he could bring.
Yeah, and I mean the issue is we're not creating enough to score. Like, you make that change at halftime. It's not a reflection on Milner or Carvalho to take them off there. You need something else. Waiting till 60 and you're down 1-0 when you've introduced them, you're putting them into a completely different game state. And the game state we needed to put them into was one where they could influence us taking a lead rather than coming in trying to rescue a point against a team that now has no incentive to offer anything active.
That's a really interesting point you make, Justin, because you kind of spoke about physical fatigue, you and Lisa, and mental fatigue. imagine the mental strain it must have to come off the bench thinking, oh gosh, we're a goal down again. I have to do something. The weight of that constantly.
Oh, yeah. That's true. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it is. It's like, oh, great. I have to come in and try to rescue this again.
Yeah.
Get me on the Minefield podcast, people. Nobody messing. No.
No, but I mean, it's a very completely different thing to think, okay, my responsibility now is to try to go in here and like, let's take control of this game and win it. There's at least some form of optimism into what you're coming into. You're coming into something where it's like, we have to score a goal to just get back on level terms against a side that we should be putting to the sword. The way in which you play becomes completely different.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And it must be so mentally exhausting. I can't even imagine like the amount of times that the Reds have to come from behind. Keep talking to me, Lisa, because, you know, I felt like Trent was, you know, involved in a few things. I felt like, you know, he was trying to put in stuff. We also saw some changes made from Nottingham Forest as well. You know, their threat, Awani came off. I think Lingard came on. They brought on Johnson, who they always kind of have recently been playing, and their captain came on. But again, you know, the hit was on the counter attack again around about 68 minutes, and it was Kouyaté to actually the new sub Johnson, and Ali produces a massive save. So, you know, we're talking about the bad big performers. You touched on this. Can we give another shout out to Alisson Becker yet again? Because if it wasn't for him, I think we'd be so low in that table. We'd be playing the championship.
Right. I'm also going to confess that I don't have really any notes from about 70 on because I was just pacing and cussing.
Yes.
And anyway.
Yes.
So we're going to be
understandable.
We're going to be going off of memory at this point in time. Yeah, I mean, we had possession. I mean, this is the last note I had, by the way. Need a goal. You know, that was
Love it. To the point.
Yeah, you know. And yeah, it was, and all they needed to do, all Forest needed to do is hold on. You know, I mean, that you know, that defensive block and the way they were set up that we talked about in the first half, that's all they needed to do was to keep that to winning. And they did. Yeah, it was, I mean, there were plenty of chances. I mean, I don't know how many corners we had. I'm sure it's out there as a stat somewhere, but we had a lot of them, and we just couldn't make it happen. It was so frustrating. I mean, I was just frustrated. I can't even string sentences together. I mean, Jones had kind of a good chance. Of course, unfortunately, it was right to Dean Henderson to save. So, you know, but at least it was an effort. And you know, when Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain came on for Bobby Firmino, I mean, my first thought was, oh, okay, well, but again, back to what we've said about Curtis Jones and some of the others, this is the first game Ox has played all season, I believe. So I don't know, that felt like a little bit of a Hail Mary, but you know, what are you going to do? That was what we needed at this point in time was the Hail Mary pass, and we just couldn't make it happen. I mean, it is sad. That just shows what we've come to, that I was just like, just a draw, just get us the point, just get us the goal, get us the point, and we'll move forward from here. And we couldn't even make that happen.
No, we absolutely couldn't. And just to answer your question there, Lisa, Liverpool had 11 corners to their 2. Yeah. So yeah, we had plenty.
It was a lot.
Yeah. So you were absolutely spot on there. And I'm going to come to you, Justin, because Lisa touched on the Ox sub there, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was so deflated at that point that it was like the Arto Melo inclusion against Napoli, where it just completely bypassed me, because it just felt like that sub just felt like just throwing another body on for the sake of it. I felt like there was no tactics. It was almost like, well, who's a senior player that I can throw off on the bench, and yeah, Ox, warm up. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I don't know what Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain offers you at this point.
Yeah.
In particular, an Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain who hasn't played in months. Like, Today was his first actual game time for us in a game that mattered since March of last year. He's a player who probably shouldn't have been at the club at the start of last season. He's still at the club now. He's not going to play much. He's taking up room on the wage bill. It's just the fact that he's there is just another sign of mismanagement of the midfield situation. And it didn't work out. He's probably going to play a few more times for us before November. We have our injury crisis. I wish him good luck, but expect very little.
Yep. Yeah. I at this moment, I don't know what he offers as well. I just feel like he's just had too many injuries that I can't even invest in him as a player or what he'll do. And yeah, he had some decent minutes today, but again, being thrown in that situation on the losing side of things, you're not going to get the most inspirational kind of performance from him,
Did he do anything? Is there anything that you saw Ox do
nothing.
that you
This
thought
is
was remotely noteworthy?
I feel that. I don't even remember really noticing.
I've got no notes
coming onto the field.
Yeah, I've got no notes on him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually gonna look at his stats for a moment to tell you what he did. I doubt there's very much event info on him, but let's see what he did. He did not. He received one pass. He did not register a pass. He attempted to cross a ball once and it was incomplete. That's his entire dashboard of action.
I've gone on Footy Mob and he played 14 minutes, 0 goals, 0 assists, accurate passes 0, chances created 0, total shots 0, fantasy point 1. That's all I've got.
He had a single. From what I can pick up here, it seems as if he had a single touch.
Okay.
In the chat, Nigel said he made one cross taken by keeper.
Yeah, he received the ball, crossed it. It was received by the keeper. 14 minutes, he had a single touch. That's not stamping any form of authority into the game.
Yeah.
That's all. It's offering next to nothing.
It's practically a waste of sub, isn't it? Let's be honest. You might as well be at 10 men down then if that's the input that you're going to get. I might watch back and see if
you have to wonder if it would have been better to put on one of the young players who, might be looking to make an impression.
A bit hungry, yeah.
Yeah, that are more hungry to, that might have just, I don't know.
There's nothing
hindsight to sit here and say that, but yeah, but if that's the effort, if his effort was so, I don't know, minuscule seems harsh, but that we didn't even notice. Right, he just put in the chat, Tacky would have been a good option. Absolutely, I miss Tacky Minamino. That you put a young player on because what do you have to lose at this point in time? I mean, and they might just do something. So anyway, but again, hindsight is always clearer.
There's nothing that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain could do for you in that game that you could get out of Ben Doak, Bobby Clark, right? The fact that we're at that point is the problem, right? Because these kids should be playing under 23 games at the moment. They should be worried about getting loans. The only young player that we have in our system right now who should be getting a look would be Tyler Morton if you could cancel his loan from Blackburn because of the fact that he's bossing the championship level. And I'm not even sure that's
fantastic at Blackburn from what I've seen.
And that's not even something I'd really consider because you should really just buy players in January. But it's all going to come back to the same point for all these discussions about all these games, regardless of what happens for the next few months. This team is in dire need of some new blood in midfield and possibly in the forward line. And possibly at right back. We need players who can actually play productive minutes for us and do things so that if Trent is out of form or out of the lineup or Thiago is out of form or out of the lineup, that your level doesn't dip so much.
These injuries and everything, it just gives me the COVID season football vibes.
Yeah. It's the chain reaction impact.
Yeah, that's what it really, really reminds me of. And again, that was the aftermath of us winning the league. And this is probably the aftermath of, Liverpool playing every competitive game possible because they made all the finals, and also having a very, very small pre-season as well. And obviously the World Cup as well, due to the World Cup. So that's what it feels like. I mean, let's quickly just summarize this as well, because, Trent, has a header, Henderson saves, and they're just growing more into it. And at this point, like, my momentum's pretty much gone. 89 minutes, Trent Alexander free kick, Virgil van Dijk hooks it across face of goal. Nobody there. Salah was trying to run in, but he wasn't going to make it. So, Trent was, there was some creativity coming. We should have put this game to bed. Trent was involved in all of it. And then VVD, free header, he should have scored that. I mean, what did you guys make of that in injury time?
It's a nice header. It's a really good save. Game shouldn't have been in doubt at this point, but I'd given up hope of us winning the game at this point. I was hoping we'd still maybe come into a draw somehow, and at least celebrate that we're tough to beat, right? But we're not tough to beat anymore either. So yeah,
yeah, you were searching for the Adam Lallana moment, weren't you, against Norwich?
You were searching, yeah.
Yeah, you certainly were. It was really, really bad. I think, Lisa, I want to get your thoughts on just the end and like when you kind of lost, hope as well, because that's really sad for me. Because at 80, I think it's 86 minutes, I'd actually even given up on a point. I was like, they're not doing anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, as I said a few minutes ago, I quit giving. The last note I have is Ox on Firmino, and I was just pacing in front of the television at this point in time, hoping that we might eke out the draw. And that hope just slipped away as the minutes ticked on the clock, because it, here's where I kind of miss Sadio Mane. Because this is the game where he would have been dragging us across the line, and we just
even a Luis Diaz,
yeah, or Luis Diaz.
There. We need dirty in there,
Absolutely.
And there was nothing. Yeah.
Yes, and but that is, we just didn't seem to have anybody with that kind of fire in the belly to just do every single thing they could to drag this across the line. And that's honestly been kind of the story of the season, is you're right. Luis Diaz has, I remember that from the Napoli game that, he seemed to be the only one who didn't give up. If it was just, so yeah, there just wasn't anyone on the field that was going to put forth. And I think that ties back to what we've already talked about, the fatigue, both physical and mental, that they just don't have that extra gear to kick up to do that right now. It's more hope and fingers crossed and pray that something will fall in.
Yeah, it's also right after, it's just, things are kind of cool right now too, because right after seeing Darwin Núñez show you what he could be for 50 minutes,
yeah,
he's unavailable for a game where he probably would have made a big difference in battle.
Yeah,
we didn't have that chaos factor today that both Diaz and Núñez can kind of bring.
Yeah, and I think John Buskell made a very, really good observation on Darwin Núñez. He goes, well, sometimes our players can be so guilty of like maybe taking too many chances or maybe too many touches and things, and then you got Darwin Núñez who'll just pull the trigger and just shoot. And he had loads of like glorious opportunities, and I think maybe that game kind of needed that, like just some absolute loose cannon, just chaos in the box.
Yes.
You know what it is? It's like what we're missing is Núñez and Diaz. The game happens around them, right? That's what the thing about really great players. The game happens around them, and we aren't getting guys who, like in today's game, the only person that we have that's capable of having the game happen around him is Salah, and When you only have one guy who can do that and you're isolating him up top, he becomes a lot easier to play against.
And not even that, he's the only guy with the pace up top, because we know Roberto Firmino doesn't have pace. So what does that naturally do? It makes the defenders work very, very easy to just kind of occupy one pacey guy. As for, I think Nunez has a lot of pace. I think he broke the record, right? He's quick for somebody so big.
He is the current record holder of the land speed record in the Premier League.
And I think Diaz really runs down that channel with some, aggression. And you instantly are now like demoted to just one fast guy on the wing. It's easy. Yeah.
Yep. And we had no speed and no pace down the sides today. That was the other big part of it. If you can't play through them, you got to play around them, and we couldn't do.
It really does. Right, guys, I think we've pretty much talked most of this game. I mean, is anything like you kind of want to highlight? Lisa, I'll come to you. Any final thoughts you want to get off your chest? Because, somebody, I think Rightly just said there, this all reminds me of the early therapy days of AI. Yes, I remember. Yep, 8 years ago, I used to do them. Yep. I'll come to you, Lisa. Any final takeaways from that game?
No, not really. I mean, I think we've just sort of covered it all. Yeah, it's just, one of the things that I dislike the most about the early kickoffs is, especially when it doesn't go well, and I'm thinking back to season before last with Virgil's injury against, Everton, that it just sort of ruins my whole day. I've got a lot of day to get through. But yeah, just, you just have to hope that because of the players who were rested and everything, that the game midweek against Ajax is an absolutely 180 and a very different result for us. Because if it isn't, then, the rest of the season is going to definitely be just horrid.
No, it really, really is. And what about you, Justin? Any final takeaways from this one?
Yeah, just I hope the World Cup break comes soon. This team's not fun to watch right now. I'm going to watch every single one of these games because I'm a sick man who likes the torture. But they're just not fun to watch right now. There's no element of real joy if Darwin or Diaz aren't playing for me in the team at the moment.
I think that's fair, and I think hopefully, I think Nunez hopefully should be back for the Ajax game because we really need a point. I think just just go hard in the Champions League and just try finishing top 4 here as well. And I think Thiago was I think he was ill, wasn't he? It's not an injury. I think he was ill, so hopefully we should see him back as well because boy, do we need him. Guys, is it even worth doing a man of the match?
We've already talked about it. Alison Becker.
Yep, I'm with you on that one.
I mean, we're in the bad situation where we're a top club and our best player is our goalkeeper, right? It shouldn't be that way, but that's where we are. And he's easily our man of the match because he's good.
Alison Becker's man of the match. Right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Kieran, for calling in. And massive thanks to all the guys who have been chatting in Discord and keeping us interactive and keeping this pod going at a good, steady pace, something we can't say about the Reds. A massive thank you to these two, but before I let them go, I'm going to get some plugs. Justin, I'll come to you. Where can people find you on social media, and is there anything you'd like to plug?
You can find me at Rolls on Shabbos. You can also follow the LFCNY account. We had a really successful canned food drive last weekend for a local food pantry right here in New York City. Pretty proud of that.
Amazing. You know what? That is wonderful news, and I'm glad we're going to end it on, some positivity there. And guys, and if you're in any region, just help your local food banks. It is massively appreciated, and just, giving back to the community. Lisa, where can people find you on social media, and is there anything you'd like to plug?
So you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at LMarieMH. On the main AI pod, although we've not been able to kind of get it pulled together for various scheduling reasons here the last week or so, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to next week because I'm going to be traveling for work. But anyway, normally you can find me on the main AI pod, and Echoing what both Nina and Justin said about the helping out the local food banks, that's always a worthy cause, and you just never know who's in that situation. It may be somebody you know, and if you can do that little bit to help them, it's always good.
Absolutely, good point. And do check out the Main AI podcast. It's great. And give Lisa and Justin a follow. And we wish Trev Downey, the host, a speedy recovery, who's out with some back problems. So hopefully he makes a speedy recovery as well. For my part, guys, obviously I'll be back post match with the Leeds game. Hopefully better, she says, she hopes. And, of course, Euro Incision with Guy Drinkle, which I'm absolutely loving. I'm doing the pod with him, and hopefully I am in a better mood. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for everyone that joined us live. I know it's shit, but hopefully things will get better. Till next time, take care, and up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.